This is Roger Roembke. It's April 15th, 2020. And I want to tell you a little bit about my first thoughts that I had as a child. I was born on January 27th in 1940. This is a period just before the United States got involved in the war against Germany, and which that started in 1941, in December of 1941. So I'll kind of tell you the time period. And I think my first memories were like when I was about 4 to 5 years old. I remember that, well, we lived in a house on South New Jersey Street, which is just west of Garfield Park and kind of north of Southern Avenue. And if you ever wanted to go down that street and kind of look for that house, it's on the east side of the street. But it had an alley behind it. We had a chicken coop out back, a little white house, small house, and a small basement in the house. I remember most the moving day, that when we were moving from the house. This was like when I'd been 4 or 5 years old. My dad, Clarence's sister, Leona, and her husband, Jess Van Dyke was their name, Leona Roembke Van Dyke, and they were there with their big farm truck, and went down the alley, and we were loading stuff in the car to move our belongings to our new house, which was in University Heights, right on the alley behind the United Brethren Church at the time. And the little house, the house I'm telling you about, we purchased from at a sale after my Aunt Kate had passed away, or my mother's Aunt Kate actually had passed away. She owned the house, and it went for sale at an auction after her death for her inheritance, the people for inheritance. The house was, I believe the folks told me the house was purchased for $1,100. There was the only house on the street. Like I said, 1284 Windermere was their address, and we have pictures somewhere in the archives that show that house sitting there with no houses around it. It had kind of a pea gravel drive road out in front was Windermere Street, and behind it had a chicken coop, and where the former residents had raised chickens, and Dad continued to have chickens in that chicken coop out back, and a privy. The facilities had an outside privy. It had a hand well drilled, no city water. It had electricity though, a little bit of electricity. No inside bathroom. Heated by a coal stove. We fired the stove with coal each evening. Dad would fire the stove, and it was a warm morning stove called a warm morning. It was the brand of it. It had a register in the floor going up to the second floor, and the heat just went up straight up through the register, and that's how the second floor, 2 bedrooms on the second floor were heated. The outside of the house, we had a porch for a little bit around the front of the house, and down the one side and across the back. It was not enclosed at the time we bought it. It had a lot of old wallpaper, about 5 or 6 layers of wallpaper on every room. And so it was a big task to go in and take that wallpaper off and try to do some remodeling so it was livable until my dad, Clarence, could make most of the improvements in the house, or hire the improvements to be done. A little house. Dad eventually built a little house on the first lot. It was close to the alley, next to the alley. He wanted to build a brick garage there, a 2-car garage, and there were actually 2 lots at the property. There was one next to the alley, and then the one next to that, and the house was on the second one away from the alley. But we had a good first start, and a loving Christian family, and had a lot of fond memories of my childhood. And I'll be telling you more in the future. Hang on.